these aren't on. Let me make sure yours.
Okay.
Let's see. Is it on?
I'm more visual man.
Okay, yeah, I think we're good. I actually have not watched this since 2006. And I was a huge Joy Division fan. I was obsessed with Ian Curtis, and I remember like needing to see this movie. It holds up so well. It's such a beautiful biopic. It captures the energy of the band, and also I think like the sadness and the journey, and how kind of the story of getting everything you ever want sometimes isn't everything, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what drew you to this story? Did you have that same like love and passion for Joy Division that so many of us have in our youth? And I'm kind of curious about your journey to this.
Yeah, thank you. I was very much in love with Joy Division, with the music, and it made me move to England. So I lived in Amsterdam. Not Amsterdam. Yeah, no, The Hague, I think. But I moved anyway from Holland to England in October '79, and 12 days later I saw Joy Division play in London, and I worked my way backstage and pretended to be an important photographer from Holland, and they agreed to do a photo with me the next morning. This was a Sunday morning, and I was so new to London, so I didn't speak English proper, and I only knew the metro station next to my flat. So we went to Lancaster Gate and I took a photograph of them. And they liked that picture, and then they asked me to come to Manchester to do more pictures. And then Ian died after that, very soon after that. So I was emotionally involved in that sense. And when this story came around, I done a lot of videos, and my videos usually it's not so much performance, but it's more a story from A to B. And a lot of my friends said, "Well, you should make movies," and I never saw myself making a movie because I couldn't see myself doing that alone, and nothing about filmmaking, and I was also quite shy, so I couldn't see myself being in charge of so many people. But when this story, I had many scripts over the years, and I never thought I was the guy. When the story came around of this, Debbie Curtis's story, I felt, well, if I ever make a film, maybe this is the one, because emotionally, I'm probably more invested than most good directors. So, I tried it.
Yeah.
And we were so lucky with the cast. It's just a fantastic cast. The actors playing the band, they play for real, so it's not playback. They actually play the song. That of course you can't do if you have Pink Floyd. But the songs were very simple, but very well put together. But very simple, so they could live in it. But still, the band actually persuaded me that they should be playing for real, and I'm so glad they did.
Yeah, there's like a beautiful pacing and rhythm to this. And I know that you worked as a photographer before you started making music videos, but obviously your love of music is clear through your work. And I'm wondering what it was like to move from the music video realm into a narrative film, but still using like music as the basis, right? Like the pacing, the editing, the way that it's moving, the lyricism almost like of the camera movements. It's almost present like an extra character in the film.
I think, I still take photographs. I always will take photographs, all of that. But music videos, if you have a good song, you can almost put any kind of visuals to it. Whereas with a movie, you have to make a story that holds your emotion, and the music can help you. It's different.
And how involved was Debbie Curtis on this film with you? Was she very involved in the writing of it, or did she have her approval?
Well, it was a bit of a funny situation. I ended up spending my own money making the film, and without knowing, there were two producers who had given her, without telling me, final cut of the film. And that pissed pissed me off no end, and
Yeah, of course.
because it's my money, and of course she wanted her story, and she didn't want Aniek in there. You know, I mean, that's everything's understandable, but that's not the story I wanted to film. So I managed to, halfway through the film, when I discovered it, I had a discussion with her, and I said, well, I'm going to stop right now if you don't give me that back, because well, I'm not an idiot, I can't make a film that mortgaged my home and everything at the time, to make a sweet film about the book. So I maybe not on speaking terms, but
Yeah. I haven't read the book. Did you read the book to prepare for this?
I did. I can't remember the full.
Yeah, but I feel like that's what's so interesting about his life. Like it's not a sweet life. It's so complex, right? And I feel like you really capture the complexity of his own life, and I almost feel like the choice to shoot in black and white kind of highlights that. It's almost like there's a lack of joy and color from his life. Was that partly the reason?
Possibly, but also the way I thought back about that period, the late 70s, early 80s in England, for me it was just a great country. You know, and I was also, I looked at life a little bit in black terms, not so much white, but black terms. So yeah, my memory of that was like this. So I thought, well, I shoot it in black and white. That's how I remember the Joy Division. And also in my photographs, I never took a color picture of them. So it's always black and white, because in those days, of course, there was pre-digital photography. So you had to put a film in your camera, and you decide in advance if you put color in black and white. And there were no magazines printed in color that would publish about Joy Division. So you would shoot it in black and white, otherwise, you know, that's your market, in a way, is black and white. Until Ian died, and then they had a hit. But then the color magazines would write about me. That's how stupid that was. Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, it's really difficult, I think, sometimes tackling like a biopic, like about a person that lived, that's been recorded and documented. Sam Riley gives such an incredible performance. Like I feel like he really captures like the ethos of Ian. And so I'm wondering, like, what was your relationship with your actors on set? What were you consuming in order to prepare them for these roles? Like, what was that experience like for you?
Well, I tried to encourage them to be as good as they could be. I had no idea what you do as a director, apart from getting something on film. And Sam was not in such a great situation, so the film for him was a way out of his situation. So he gave it everything, and then some, I think. But now, when I think of Ian Curtis, I think of this Ian Curtis, because that was much closer to me in a way than the two times that I met Ian Curtis. So that's interesting. He really become that person to me, and in reality, he married Aniek. He married Alexander Maria Lara, the actress that plays Aniek. So it was a beautiful thing for him. You know, he fell in love during the making of the film, and she too. And yeah, I just have good memories. I wanted a very grey film. I wanted clouds and everything. It was the one summer that England was sunny. So the bits outside are very sunny. This I think is really good for the film. Now I know this is a 35mm print, but I don't know, it must be. It's not how I remember it. I think it's very bleached. I think over the years maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to it. So I think if you ever want to look back, look at on a DVD, because there's a lot of tonality missing at the moment, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that Ian Curtis's writing is essential for the film. And it starts with his words and ends with his words. Samantha Morton was the only actress I knew, because I'd done a YouTube video once with her in it. And she always said to me, well, if you want to work with me, just let me know. So she was the first one I called, of course, when I was going to do this film, and that it helped enormous to get people on board. And she was in that. And she's phenomenal. And that scene, the end scene where she finds him, that was shot on the second day of the film. So she didn't have any of that backstory, it was all in the mind.
Yeah, it's incredible performances, and it's so interesting that this is your directorial debut. Really, like you were doing music videos, and then
I was about 80.
yeah, right.
I was an old guy.
But then you've gone on to make such incredible films, and I wonder, like, was there something that you learned on the set of Control that you've taken into your other work, or like just a great lesson that has been imparted on you?
I wish I learned so much, but I think I took a confidence. That's maybe the one thing I got out of the movie, a bit of confidence in my own ideas. And I desire to make things. So after this film, I made The American. This is a very different kind of film because, this film was very successful. Not for me financially, but it was a successful film. And I got all these offers, Kurt Corbijn, Marvin Gaye, Jeff Buckley, every musician at Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
So when I thought, okay, this is a dead trap. I need to, literally, yeah, I need to find something very different to see if I actually can make a film. It was not just luck and because I was so emotionally involved. So that's where The American came from.
Yeah. And could you speak a little bit about your creative process maybe now? Like, I know that you're working a lot all the time. We talked about how you don't have enough time to see movies. So I'm just wondering, like, kind of what your creative process today looks like.
Well, I'm prepping another film, but I hope to shoot in October. So I'm reading and I'm trying to cast, and I'm doing that amongst 20 other things I'm doing. So you always feel like you're behind, and I don't know how much I learn from the movies I've made into this one, apart from that, in the end, somehow it happens. It's a miracle movies actually happen. There's so much that can go wrong. And with this movie, apart from financially for me, the film itself, we were very lucky to get it all going. And have the right people, and it was made for less than £3 million.
And shot on film, right?
Yeah, shot film. I have to say it was shot on color film, because I did these tests with black and white film, and it was so grainy. If you know my pictures, I love grain, but when it always moves, then that takes your eye there. So I didn't want that, and when we tried color film transferred to black and white, we seemed to have much more control over, not pun intended, over the film.
Yeah. And we're here tonight because you have a new film opening at Film Forum tomorrow. Do you want to speak a little bit about that project?
Absolutely. It's a documentary which is new for me, and the subject is over with Paul Powell, who sits here, and it's about Hypnosis, the design group who made these incredible record sleeves in the late 60s and 70s for Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Peter Gabriel, Paul McCartney, Tennessee. Actually, you name it. We've only touched, I think, the surface of the record sleeves there, but they're standout designs, and they're connected to albums that became very big. So we all know these images, and they made record sleeves in our form. And of course, the importance of record sleeves is diminished in the 80s when you got the DVD and then you got small things on your phone in the end. Although people buy vinyl again, I think the importance of vinyl won't go back. But this was the period that it was really, really important, at least for me and for music. And we have this story. There are two people, Paul, who's here. I'm happy you're here, Paul. And Storm unfortunately passed away before we started the film, but he's definitely represented in the film. And we living Pink Floyd guys, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, Paul McCartney, even somebody from Tennessee, I forgot his name, and pardon? Graham Goldman, thank you. Who else did we? Peter Gabriel, and Noel Gallagher is an outsider, and Peter Settler is an outsider, and a few other people. But it's a fun documentary. I like to think.
Yeah, amazing. Well, you can see it's opening at Film Forum starting tomorrow. I'd love to open it up to questions from the audience. Yeah.
That last shot with the chimney and the black smoke, was there something like similar to Christian, like when he chose a new pope, there was like white smoke coming from their chimney in the Vatican? Is that something similar that you're going for, or?
No, I wasn't going for that. I was going for smoke. Which apparently, the crematorium doesn't show smoke, so we had to put something in there to make it black. It was just pure visual.
It just looks so symbolic.
Yeah. I could pretend to be that way.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you for the great film. I was just curious what the other band members, did you ever hear back from, Morris, Peter Hook, or Bernard Summer about the movie? What did they think?
Yeah, they all came to Cannes when we had the show in Cannes, and yeah, I think they really loved it. They were emotional about it, and you know, I think we still have very good relations there. But the band themselves fell a little apart, of course, with Hookie doing his own thing. There's a little bit of music in there that Bernard with myself created, and then Hookie and Stephen played on that again. They were already so not on speaking terms, but Bernard wouldn't go into the studio with Hookie anymore. But I did, so I was part of that.
All the way in the back.
Yeah. I believe 24-Hour Party People came out before this one.
Correct.
I just want to know, did that movie affect the script in any way, like, or the tone? Did you decide you wanted to do a different movie? It is a very different movie, but would you say that movie did have an impact on this one?
No, not really for me. I mean, that's a very funny story. That Joy Division is part of that film, but it's not about Joy Division. I didn't like so much in that film how they dealt with Ian's death, but that's private. But I think it's a very fun film. I really enjoyed it, apart from that little bit. But it had no effect on how I looked at this film.
I'm a big admirer of your photographs of U2 and Depeche Mode as well, and I'm just curious, like someone like Bono or Dave, they're so dynamic, but Ian was more reserved of a person. Like maybe you could speak to capturing like a bolder personality versus an introverted personality.
Well, you know, people are what they are, so I have no conditions when I photograph somebody, obviously. I'm interested in the person, however they behave. Yeah, Bono is a larger-than-life kind of person, but he's also a big fan of Ian Curtis, and quite rightly so. There's a beautiful delivery that Curtis had, and the dance that the actor does in the film, that was really based on how Ian Curtis moved, which is a crazy kind of move. But I kept, with the casting, I kept asking him to do it again and again. I wanted to make sure he could move like that. I don't think I think about if a person is larger than life. I have tunnel vision, I think, when I start on something. I just make the best of what I have in front of me.
Speaking of Ian's death, I was wondering what your thought process was behind your depiction of it, the way it was shot, the way it was edited, the way you used sound. I thought it was, it personally
wanted to be suggestive and dramatic. I think. Didn't want to show how it happened, but very early on when they just moved to the house, early in the film, you see how she racks up that thing with the washing on it. So you have an idea of how that machine, or how these things work. People had, I never saw these things in Holland, but in England, people had those in the small houses, had a rack where they could pull it up, so it was not in the way for the drying of the clothes. So it's suggestive and dramatic. I mean, it's used to dramatic effect, the sound as well and everything. But I shot very little, you know, I knew exactly what I wanted to shoot. Sorry.
Yep, all the way in the back.
How did you get to cast Sam Riley, who was at the time a very small and successful actor?
Yeah, well, Sam, I think he tried to be in 24-hour Party People, but his role was cut out. I think he tried to play Mark Smith from The Fall. But it was taken out. So that was his first role. So this was the first role you would actually see. But this is the second time he acted. Sam had a band, also not successful, but he knew how to sing, and that was really helpful. And he, with the other actors, were convinced they could recreate these songs, and they did. So how we recorded this was, they played till we felt it was great, and I kept filming that, and then that became something they did playback towards. So that was their own sound, and some of the footage you see was the actual moment they created it, and other times it was just against playback. Actually,
We have time for one more question. Yeah. You.
First of all, I want to say thank you. I've never been so haunted by film in my life. I cried for weeks. And I just wanted to know, because it was your first film, did you feel a sense of fearlessness? Or like, what was it? Because I've seen so many films in my life, and I've never had anything impact me this way. It's just, and especially with music, which is so important, you honored this band so beautifully. It's just incredible.
I like to leave it at that. I did give it everything, you know, as did they, because I thought I'd probably have one chance of ever making a film, and because I put my own money into it, because there was no money, I think I was heavily invested, emotionally as well as financially, to work on it. And I had a DP from Germany that I'd done some videos with, so we had a good communication. That was great. Obviously, we wanted to film in Manchester, but Manchester City Council wouldn't help us, so we filmed in Nottingham. They're very similar in build, but the house in Macclesfield, where Ian walks from out of his home and goes to his workplace, these were real. The home was real, the workplace was real, so there was the real walk that he had. And it was such a small house that the interior actually we rebuilt in a studio, about 50% larger, because you couldn't get a camera in that house. It was just on a corner, just like a piece of cake where you slice. So we had, that was all in the studio, the interior. Okay, sorry, I want to say something significant and I can't think of it.
I would love if you made more music films, please. Nobody's as good as you.
I think that, you know, filmmaking should be an adventure. Even if you fail, it should be an adventure. And I think if I make a music film, that won't be such an adventure for me.
Thank you so much for sharing your work with us tonight. It was really
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Okay, next.
Yeah.